welcome to the April edition of Upfront Fridays. I'm Amy Barritt, your host, and with me today is Fred Anderson. Fred is a volunteer in many capacities. In fact, he volunteers with me at the Traverse Area District Library and Local History. But Fred, we're here to talk today about volunteerism as a way of moving through grief.
Yes.
Go for it.
First of all, I'd like to start and thank Amy for her patience and putting up with an old retired guy working in the history stuff. But yes, I unfortunately lost my wife very unexpectedly, and we were in the process of trying to retire here, and so it obviously caused me to have to reinvent my life. And we had been, as a couple, people who'd wanted to talk about or think of a lot of volunteerism, so I kind of think of it, I'm now volunteering for two. So I found a lot of support in this community. We're blessed here to have Michael's Place, which initially gave me a lot of support in grief recovery, and then later on I found support also with Munson Bereavement. Munson Hospice has a bereavement program, and I got very close and still am socially close with a group there that we all lost our spouses about the same time, and we all had long-term relationships, so we've bonded a lot and we still do things socially. So I've kind of thrown myself into volunteerism. Was something I wanted to do anyway, and I was always been kind of a history nerd, and my freshman year when I was just starting out in college, and I tell my kids I went to MSU so long ago, my student number was a Roman numeral. I met with an advisor and said I wanted to be a history major, and they said, well, are you going to teach K-12 or are you going to teach college level? I said, no, I don't want to teach. I want to work in archival work in museums. And I remember the guy saying, there's only 5 jobs a year in that, so you better get another job, so another career path. So I did that, but now that I'm retired and I've thrown myself into history, certainly in particular, the work with your patients that I do. I love going through all the old photos in the library and trying to find more old photos. And also I done a lot of volunteer work at City Opera House. Really tried to get steeped in the history of that building, and have been blessed to be able to present a lecture on the history of City Opera House last fall at NMC's Campus Day, and then I'm going to be giving that same lecture presentation May 11th at the spring session of their.
Oh, neat.
So I'm very excited about it, and we are, I guess just to talk about that building for a second, we're so blessed here. And I would have loved to have met the people who built that building, because when it was opened in 1882, most of the homes here probably didn't have running water.
Right.
Yet somebody had the vision to build a entertainment venue that survives today. And as you know, Amy, with all your history work, so many of the buildings in downtown burned. And while the Opera House had 3, I think, smaller fires, it's still here today.
Right.
126 years later, and after millions in renovation, we're just so lucky to have a facility like that here. So I figure if I can help out in talking about the history and any other volunteer work, I've handed out candy on Halloween, which is a lot of fun. You see all the kids.
That's cool.
In addition, I've now started doing some volunteer work at Michael's Place to kind of give back to them, because they were so supportive. I'm not the kind of person that's ever going to lead a group. That's not my strength, but I try to help them a little bit with PR, fundraising, introductions, whatever I can do. Their second biggest fundraising event of the year just coincidentally happens to be tonight at the State Theater.
Right.
The movie The Greatest Showman at 7 o'clock, and we've been working hard to make that a successful event, and the people there have been incredibly supportive, and certainly so have the City Opera House staff. They've been so supportive of my role in helping me to kind of build a new life. Then I've also gotten involved at the Visitor Center, which is a very tough assignment. I have to sit at the information desk 1 or 2 afternoons a month and talk. And the most frequent things I get asked are about restaurants and wineries. So that's extremely tough for me to talk about.
Right, I know, because you just hate eating out.
And I don't like wine at all.
I
so
know. That is a lie. Both of those statements are lies. He loves both of those things. So you're probably the perfect volunteer when people run into you, because you've actually eaten there.
I try to get to all the places. I figure that's my part of my mission, and then I can rationalize it by saying I'm doing it for volunteer work.
Right, absolutely.
And then the staff there has also been so incredibly supportive of me. They're a small staff, and they work so many hours. Oh my, they work hours.
Yeah, they do.
So I've kind of helped them out a few times when they've had like travel writers in town, like a group of travel writers, to help out with throwing in a few history facts, throwing in a few wine facts, whatever needs to be done. And that's been a lot of fun too, because I've met some very interesting people. I met a radio broadcaster from who was from Wales but now lives in England.
Oh.
And it was so much fun to talk to him, and he was in particular impressed by the City Opera House because it was still here, which not old by English standards, but old by our standards.
Old by our standards, and I don't think people realize how lucky you are to have one survive
intact. Yeah, intact.
Oh, so that's a big deal.
Of course, $8 million later, it looks a lot nicer than it did. But
sure.
Also, I've gotten quite involved with the Traverse Area Historical Society. I'm on the board, and I am part of a platoon of people that do downtown walking tours during the warmer weather.
Right.
I don't know if we'll ever be able to start the tours this year. We may have to just, end the tours. But it's just been an incredible ride here, and I'm so blessed and feel with all the support I've gotten from people, and I guess I would just encourage others.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a wonderful way to, like, you gave us a really broad view of all the volunteerism that you do. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is especially as a man who's going through grief. I think there's a lot of men, especially in this community, that sort of just wall themselves off. Their social outlets are lost now that they don't have their wives sort of managing their calendar. So that was one of the things, one of the reasons that I wanted you to come on, especially. But also, when you do volunteerism, you make it your own, Fred. Yeah, like I have Fred doing, honestly, a really boring job. His job is to inventory our photograph collection, which is pretty massive and is taking him we're going on years now.
But I love it.
But you love it. And it feeds all these other things that you're doing. It feeds your City Opera House stuff, and it feeds your work with the visitor center.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're really making it your own, and that's really what volunteerism is all about. One of the things that I want to mention here, because we're wrapping it up, thank you for coming on today, Fred, but one of the things I wanted to mention is whatever your interest is, get a hold of the organizations in town that are going to meet your interest. Because even if they don't announce something on their website that they're looking for volunteers, or they or you see their volunteer list and you're like, I'm not interested in any of those jobs, get a hold of them and find out what it is you can do.
That's an excellent point, yes.
Right, because with the City Opera House, they certainly weren't looking for somebody to go out and do their history research, but they found somebody. They found the perfect person in you. So, yeah, meet your interests. Even for minors. Like, minors need to go knock on doors if they want to do volunteer work. Go ask these organizations what they can do to help.
Well, that's an excellent point. Yeah, we got to find a way to bridge the gap so the younger generation has an interest in volunteerism.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on today, Fred.
Well, thank you.
You are a blessing to this community.
Oh, well,
I'm so glad that you're here.
And thanks to Horizon.
Welcome back to our second guest for Upfront Fridays, the April edition. I have with me Matt Cowall, who is with the Easling Pool Community Campaign.
Indeed. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Matt. So tell us a little bit about the campaign. The Easling Pool, first of all, where's Easling Pool?
Easling Pool is at the Grand Traverse County Civic Center in Traverse City. The pool itself is nearing 50 years old, built in the early 70s in honor of a man named Paul Easling, who was a contractor locally, builder, but also a community leader. He served on different boards and commissions, and it was one of his personal dreams was to have an indoor pool in which local kids could learn how to swim, do swim lessons. Back that far, swim lessons were in the bay. So you can imagine a pretty narrow window of when those would happen, and early memories for a lot of kids that grew up at that time are how cold it was and how scary it was and all those sorts of things. Instead of focusing on water safety and the good things you can teach in a more comfortable situation like indoor water. Mr. Easling passed away unexpectedly, rather young, and his colleagues in the building trades rallied around that dream of his and built the Easling Pool.
Wow.
A lot of donated materials, a lot of donated labor, and some fundraising went into building that pool. It opened up in, I believe, 1971. And since then, it's been the place. I mean, if you grew up in this area, you probably learned to swim at Easling Pool. It was the only pool for several counties. It's still today is the only public pool for 4 counties around.
Right.
So we don't have a lot of indoor water in our region, which is interesting because we're literally surrounded by water. It's learning to be safe in and around the water in northern Lower Michigan is a basic life skill. So when for several years the pool was on kind of a treadmill in terms of county budget issues and shortfalls and those leaders really worrying about money and budgets, and it seemed like every year those of us who like to use the pool were going around budget time, tromping into county meetings and saying, please don't close the pool, because it was always kind of on the chopping block.
Right.
And a few years ago we thought about what we, just citizens, just people who used the pool or thought it was important, started brainstorming ways to try to get us off that treadmill. What could we do to make this situation better? How could we put the pool on good sound footing for the next 50 years?
Right.
And that led to we put a call out for people to come to a meeting on a weeknight just to talk about the pool, and 150 people showed up.
Holy cow.
So it demonstrated for the first time to everyone involved what a groundswell there was behind this pool. Dozens of different user groups, from Special Olympics to Multiple Sclerosis Society to exercise and triathlon and water exercise classes, and all these different user groups that sometimes if you weren't there at the same time of day, you didn't even know existed or were interested in the pool. And that really gave, I think, everybody kind of a push to say, what can we do to make this better?
Wow.
And certainly one of the things would be to start to fix up some of these really old components that are part of the pool that are critical to its operation, pumps and filters and the liner and all these physical components of the pool that were aging and were going to need replacement. And the budget troubles that the county was going through didn't make those seem very feasible.
Right.
So one thing led to another, and one of the interesting things that bubbled out of this effort was the YMCA, the Grand Traverse Bay YMCA, being brought into the conversation, and it kind of turned into a 3-part team. Right? You had Grand Traverse County Parks and Recreation that owned the pool, the YMCA with a lot of technical pool expertise, but also a lot of operational expertise, the ability to come in and operate it on behalf of the county, realizing some cost savings, realizing some efficiencies, and opening up a pool for YMCA programming, additional swim lessons, additional swim teams, all the kinds of things that go into that. And then the third leg of that stool was us. It's just a citizen group, Friends of Easling Pool. We're a registered nonprofit in Michigan, and just self-organized and said, you know what we could do for you is we could raise the money to make the necessary capital improvements to the pool to make sure that it can effectively continue to serve the community for decades to come. And that was kind of the dream, and we spent several months, maybe the better part of a year, figuring out how the county and the YMCA could formally partner on managing the facility, which worked out. And we did our due diligence on we got a small grant from Rotary Charities of Traverse City to do some planning and look into a capital campaign for the pool, of kind of a feasibility study. Would this go? Would people support it? And we got good feedback on that. So we publicly launched last August and planned for a year. So technically that's this August, but I'm happy to report we're a little bit ahead of pace.
Yeah.
So now we're really pushing toward the end of the capital campaign here to get it done in time to actually do the work this year in July.
Wow.
When the pool normally closes. Every year it closes for a week or two for annual maintenance. It's a normal part, and we're going to try to hit that window. We'd really like to just piggyback on that normal closure in the middle of the summer and get it done before everything gets busy again in August. Swim lessons start back up in earnest. The high school girls swim team starts using the facility then, so it'll start to get busy and kind of get away from us starting August, September. So that July window is just perfect. And like I said, I'm just so grateful to report that we're far enough ahead of pace. We only have about $40,000 left to go.
Wow.
And that's out of a goal of $625,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. $40,000 is not a small amount of money.
Right.
But we've got, almost $600,000 in the rearview mirror. So
Right.
that's just awesome. Like I'm just so excited about the way it's gone. More than 380 donors so far, about half of those individuals, but then a big chunk from foundations and a big chunk from small businesses.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a really amazing part of a capital campaign. Not always a typical part of a capital campaign to have as many donations as we do from small businesses. But some of that's been the influence of Marty Easling, who is Paul Easling's son.
Okay.
So the namesake family, they're still involved with this capital
Wonderful,
campaign. Yeah. He's also a builder, and his colleagues in the building trades have once again rallied around this pool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's full circle. It's really a cool thing, and it's been very gratifying to for all of us who are volunteering on it to be involved.
Yeah, that's a really heartwarming story.
Yeah,
of bringing
it's
the
good
community
stuff.
together.
Yeah.
You basically explained everything that I was going to ask you, but what would happen if the pool closed? If we couldn't renovate the pool, what's going to happen?
That's exactly why I got involved. There's not a lot of indoor water in our region, and it's critical that all of us, kids, adults, age 2 to 82, we all need to know how to be safe in and around the water.
Right.
Even if you don't swim for recreation, even if you never have set foot in Easling Pool, you're going to be around water. You're going to walk past it. A friend's going to invite you on the boat. Your kids are going to go to the beach. It's a basic life skill in our community, and to reduce the amount of indoor water in our region, where we already have very little, makes no sense to me, and it's something really worth fighting against. It's super important to have that available to us. It's super important that our kids know how to be safe in and around the water. We all need to be, and at this point, Easling Pool is seeing record usership. We've got more people using the pool than ever right now, and it's growing. So the interest is there, the support is there, and if we were to yank the rug out now, there is a pool now at the West YMCA location on the west side of our community. That pool simply cannot handle the traffic from both facilities.
Yeah.
So what happens when you're too busy? You cut services. So that's at least half as many swim lessons, half the kids on the swim team, half the classes, half the lap lanes.
We don't want that.
It's unacceptable.
Right. So people want to donate. How do they do it?
The easiest way is easlingpool.com. That's a quick and easy way to remember. You can donate right through the website, or there's information on how you can do it by mail or in person down at the Grand Traverse County Treasurer's Office at the Governmental Center on Boardman Avenue in downtown Traverse City. That's the best, easiest way to get informed on the campaign, receive updates, and get involved.
Well, thank you so much, Matt Cowall from the Easling Pool Community Campaign.
Perfect.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, easlingpool.com. Come on, community, 40 grand. That's all that's left.
We're almost there. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back to the April edition of Upfront Fridays. I'm here with Anne-Marie Oomen and Linda Nemec Foster. Thank you so much for coming.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Both of you are seasoned authors, have written several books. You've been around the community. Everyone knows your names. So thank you so much for coming on today. It's a real honor for me
You're welcome.
to meet you guys.
Thank you.
But,
Pleasure.
yeah, thank you. So let's talk about this latest project, because this is the first time you two have collaborated on a published work.
Yes, yes. Well, it's the story of the story is that it was a 10-year secret.
10-year project.
We started 10 years ago, and this is part of our presentation, is that we tell people about how this all evolved. But 10 years ago, we were in another book. We were in an anthology, and both of us were represented in that anthology. And during one of the readings for that anthology, we heard our friend.
Our good friend Jack Riddle was in the audience, and it was a book of women writing about the Great Lakes. And it was called Fresh Water, published by Michigan State University. And when we did this reading for the anthology in Saugatuck, there was a man in the audience, Jack Riddle, who said, there should be, is there a Lake Michigan mermaid?
Yeah.
Why isn't there a Lake Michigan mermaid? And we were both sitting next to each other. We looked at each other and had a little smile on our faces and thought, well, what an interesting idea. And later that night,
I had my new cell phone, and I was driving home late at night. It's dark, and so I called her. I have
Yes.
her, and believe it or not, this is late, and she picks up.
pick
Strange
up.
number, and she picks up. And I say, I think we should do something with this mermaid idea. I really do. And the first thing out of her mouth is, I want to be the mermaid.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it actually works perfectly because Linda has, if you've read her books of poetry, many of them, has a very elegant, beautiful style, very lyrical. And we tell this story too. And my poetry tends to be narrative and more down to earth in tone. And so as the characters develop, there's two voices in the book. Linda's voice is the mermaid's voice. My voice is the voice of a troubled girl, a young persona poems of a troubled girl who's seeking the mermaid. She's out looking for Lake Michigan looking for the Lake Michigan mermaid on a makeshift paddleboard, and so that's where the tension of the story
Right.
comes from.
Wow.
Yeah.
so I like to describe it as Anne Marie's voice of the young girl being very narrative, plot-driven. You know, it takes you through the plot and the storyline, and the mermaid's voice is more lyrical and has the emotional undercurrent of what's happening throughout the story. So it's a nice balance of the two voices of narrative and lyrical.
But I think the thing we're both excited about is it reads like a story. It's not, when we say poems, people kind of think, oh, maybe that's just like you dip in and you read a poem or two and then you let it go, or you skip around, which we often do with poetry books.
Right, right.
But with this one, you read it like a novel.
Right.
You read it from beginning to end, and it unfolds. I hope, a
Yes.
powerful story
Yes.
of this girl who's, troubled and trying to figure out what she wants. And then the character of the mermaid, of course, plays in because you talk about this so beautifully, that she's lonely.
Right. I look at the mermaid. The mermaid has no family. We don't know if she has a mother, father. She is basically the spirit of the lake.
Okay.
And I look at her as a study in loneliness or aloneness. And so that's the whole genesis of the mermaid psyche and what she provides for the storyline. And one of my friends read the book and likens it to a novella in poems or a short story in poems. And that goes along with what Anne Marie was saying, that you just don't dip in and out. It's really a wonderful string of circumstances and a storyline, written in poems.
And then the other thing that we like, we're hoping our audiences like too, is that because of the two voices, it can be read intergenerationally. So a mom and daughter, or grandmother and granddaughter, that sort of thing, can read it together, taking the voices. It makes a great gift book too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful work in and of itself.
Yeah,
so
it's really
people who
pretty.
are bibliophiles.
Right.
What was it like working with the illustrator?
We'll go
fun,
on and
fun,
on and
fun.
praise her. And it's fully illustrated, by the way, fully illustrated book. And we actually kind of let go 3 illustrators before we found Meredith Riddle. And she is actually the daughter of Jack Riddle, the man so long ago, 10 years ago, who said, is there a Lake Michigan mermaid? And it happens to be his daughter, wonderful artist that fully illustrated the book. And she was just great to work with because this mermaid is not a Disney mermaid. This is an Ariel under the sea. This is a more somber, reflective, quiet mermaid, and you get this mystery in these illustrations because you never see the mermaid's face. You know, you see her contour, you see her shape, her colors, but we love the watercolor pattern. We love the palette that Meredith Riddle has used, and it was a pure delight working with Meredith on this book.
And that whole idea of neither the girl nor the mermaid, we don't see their faces directly. We see them from an angle, and they're always, the mermaid's always of the water. I mean, there are a couple of beautiful illustrations where she just kind of appears out of the abstraction of the water, which I think is kind of miraculous on the part of an illustrator. And then the girl also, you see the side of her face, and we like that because we think all kinds of people can identify with this mermaid and this girl, and that just makes the book more universal.
Yes.
So.
It sounds like a beautiful story. It's a beautiful work in and of itself, just looking at it. So tell us about how people can meet up with you.
Okay.
Great. Well, tonight we are at Northport Library, at the library in Northport, which is, I think, the Leelanau Township Library, and that's at 7. And tomorrow we are at the Leland Library, where the old museum is located, and we will be at their luncheon event, which is open to the public. And then tomorrow afternoon, we are back here for a book signing right here in the Horizon Bookstore. And then next week,
we have a number of events in Grand Rapids, 4 events. We'll be at Aquinas College addressing a class of, it's a environmental class in their gender studies department.
Oh, neat.
So it's women and the environment, which is a great, you know, this book is really speaks to that issue of the environment, of water, of women. So we'll be addressing their class in the afternoon next Tuesday, April 24th, and then that evening, April 24th at 7 o'clock, we're doing a major reading at Aquinas for the general public. The next day, Wednesday, April 25th, we'll be at LaFonsi Gallery just for a book signing, but it'll concentrate on the art because Meredith Riddle is represented by that gallery. So they want to do this, you know, for her. And then the next day, which is Thursday, April 26th, we'll be doing a presentation at East Grand Rapids Library with our PowerPoint talking about the story behind the story. And so that's a full week next week.
Whew.
Woo!
So many opportunities
Yes.
for people to catch you
Right.
and learn more about the story, meet
Right.
you, all of that jazz. It's going to be lots of fun.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. But yeah, support your independent booksellers.
Yes.
yes, the
Absolutely.
independent booksellers
Yes.
first. Yes.
Please.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Linda and Anne
Thank
Marie.
you. Thank
you for
did a
having us.
wonderful
Thank you,
job.
Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, really
All right.
nice to be here.
All right.
So yes, the Lake Michigan Mermaid.
Yes.
A Tale in Pumps.